Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me again in the same shirt because I will not apologize for how cute this shirt is. Are you kidding me? The other day someone left a comment on my Instagram and they were like, which by the way is @PlantMeAshley, and they were like, you wear that all the time. And I was like, yeah, probably because it's my clothes. Ever heard of a washing machine? Anyways, today I'm gonna tell you about how I grow my Monstera. Something you might have noticed is that I have a lot of Monstera. I love Monstera. I love Monstera so much, it makes me a little bit violent, okay? Not really, but I love Monstera. I love it so much. And what's funny is I used to actually not like Monstera. I had a bone to pick with Monstera, if you will. My problem was that everyone had it. I grew up in Portland, okay? The hometown of hipsters. And I was definitely a Tumblr hipster girl growing up. And still kind of when I got to Idaho, where I live now. I was easily proven wrong the first time I saw a Monstera in person, okay? My first cutting, here it is, started my love of Monstera. I rooted this cutting. There's a child in my backyard. There was literally just a child in my backyard. I do not have kids. Why did that scare me so bad? I think that their basketball just came over into my backyard. That scared me so bad. Oh my God, okay, hello. That scared me so bad, oh my God. There was literally just a kid in my backyard and then I see him like trying to, like, you know, a young kid, like a really little kid. He tried to jump the fence, but it was like way too tall, so I think he just left, went out the other way. I don't even remember what I was saying because that threw me off guard so hard. Okay, when I first moved here, I still was definitely hipster vibes. I just made a care video about peace lilies, did not like peace lilies. I'm like freaking out. Okay, so I've met my neighbors. They're so cute. They're the little kids, and right now they're testing to see how high they can kick their ball. Okay. Monstera, right? I got my first Monstera from Edward's greenhouse. It was given to me as a cutting. They charged me $2 for it. It was so cute. I absolutely loved this cutting. I grew it into a super big plant. And then what happened was I neglected that plant. I put it up in a really high spot where I couldn't easily access it to check on it. And that was before I knew how to deal with thrips. Thrips are a super common houseplant pest that you end up dealing with a lot in the spring, summer, and fall. Very specifically, they love Monsteras and philodendrons. When I took the plant down, I mean, it was infested with thrips. Like, I'm talking like probably hundreds of thrips on this plant. It was so disgusting. I had to cut off each individual leaf so that way when I picked it up, they wouldn't like, it was, you guys, ugh. Because of that, I had to get rid of it. And also, my other Monstera that I had at the time, which was my sport variegated Monstera, here's when I got it. It was a great day. I got it, but we weren't going home for a while, so I kind of got to take it around with me while me and Reed, my best friend, went and did a ton of different fun stuff. That Monstera ended up getting super, super big, and I actually just filmed pretty recently a repot with me where I repotted that plant for the first time. Well, second time. And it got a massive, massive new pot, which it's in right now. It's actually this Monstera right here, the one that's growing up this plank. Inspired by plant life in the tropics. I got like so into Monstera and I was like, I want all the Monstera. So I traded with my friend Devin. He traded me 2 Monstera, and then I traded this other local girl who traded me a Monstera that like ended up being rotted and sad and almost died. But we brought it back to life and now it's potted up on the floor right there. That thing, we saved it. Hands down, we saved it by ourselves. Now I have all these beautiful Monstera. I've also kind of picked up a couple smaller Monstera. Like you can see there's a Monstera right there. And then there's also Monstera on the floor somewhere over there. It's tucked in the corner, you can't see it, but it's actually like right there. Not including the Adansonii that I have hanging down right there. But out of Monstera Deliciosa, I have a many, okay? Love Monstera Deliciosa. I'm gonna tell you how I take care of them, kind of what I've done. I've actually cared my sport variegated Monstera, which I separated, and now I have blank right here. I've actually had that plant since 2020. It's 2022 as of filming, April 2022. And then I have a little one, which I've had since sometime fall last year in 2021. So I'm gonna show you my plants, and then I'm gonna kind of tell you like how I care for them and whatnot. So I show you guys this anytime I get the chance because I'm so proud of this super beautiful like Monstera situation. Like, I'm sorry, but that is the coolest thing I've ever seen out of anyone's collection. One of these plants, obviously I did trade with Devin, so I didn't originally grow this one to be as big as it is, but Devin did, and I have taken over the reins as we have a new leaf coming out right here and another new leaf coming out right here. The other one that I traded with Devin was this one, which is giving me another new leaf. And this one just gave me a leaf like super recently. You can see how new the stem is right here. But this plant is just popping off. This Monstera is like the love of my life. It is so wonderful. I've moved it around a lot and I actually repotted it. It's now in the pot that my other Monstera used to be in. These aerial roots, I'm literally letting grow all over because I think that they look really cool. And right here is my Monstera. This is the Monstera Deliciosa that I have had for a long time. Looks like it had a hard time kind of coming out right there. But this is our newest leaf and it is doing so good. I have this plant tied on a plank of wood because my friend Caitlin grows all of her plants on wood and they do really, really good. All of this is mine that I have grown in over a period of time. Here's all the other leaves. They're a lot smaller. This plant for a while wasn't growing that fast and it wasn't growing up anything. So all the leaves kind of like shrank. It's doing much better now. We're getting fenestrations back. This is our other newest leaf. It has a fenestration in it. This one's our other newest leaf, no fenestration, but it is finally getting bigger. We have some seriously beautiful leaves here. And then this is the one I've had since July of 2020. It's in a massive, I think 3-gallon pot. It's, huge, this pot alone. It was chipped, so I only had to pay $30, but I'm pretty sure it was a $55 pot. Terracotta pots like this, oh yeah, and then this broke, I don't know when. I don't have the heart to take it off though, but I probably should. Just get that out of there. Dead stuff like this can actually attract bugs. Then right here, this is one I actually found at the grocery store. It had a little bit of elbow variegation on it, and then there was another leaf that had some on it as well. None of the new leaves that have just come in, like this one is brand new, or this one, have any variegation on them. So I think it'll probably just end up being a Monstera for me and nothing too wild, but he's very cute. I've had him for a hot minute now, probably a couple months. The other one is down here. This is one of my sport variegated Monstera. It has like a lot of texture variegation, not a whole lot of color. Someone said they thought that this was a virus, but I've had this Monstera for so long and none of my other plants have caught any weird virus. And I even kept this in my grow tent back when I had a grow tent. So he's a little bit sadder. So I'm gonna repot him soon. And I've had him for probably like 8 months. So those are the Monstera in question. I'm very proud. Like, excuse me? Well, number one, I give them bright south direct and bright indirect light. Different parts of the day, like right now what you're seeing, this light, this is bright indirect light. You can see right here, this is direct light, and it's gonna slowly start moving across all these plants throughout the room. It would look a lot brighter if I was over there, because the camera has to bring it in. But you can see how bright it is. Like, it's bright, and yes, I'm wearing shorts. This is what you call bright indirect light, and my Monstera absolutely love it. My Monstera grow very fast, always have, especially now that they're growing up something. I've noticed that Monsteras, if they're not growing up something, they will kind of like lose their fenestrations, and they'll also grow really slow. Something I decided to actually do pretty recently now, even though I don't have a lot of humidity, like I think the resting humidity in this house in my area is probably 25 to 30% resting humidity. Something I have noticed is that plants are a sliding scale. They're on a spectrum themselves. And just because you don't have a certain amount of humidity doesn't mean your plants won't be able to grow. It just means that you need to make up for that deficit in other areas. My Monstera get an absolute ton of light, and they're also climbing up something, so they feel like they have something that's like more secure. Because of that, I found that I think that that makes up for the deficit in the humidity of the plants. I also water them probably once a week because they're getting so much light, and I also have a fan in here, which you've never seen before. But I do have a ceiling fan. I generally keep it up pretty high during the day, especially when I'm out of the house. It kind of gives all the plants some airflow in here. Additionally, I tend to keep my house at 74 degrees during the day. At night, we usually drop down to 68, 67 degrees in the house. That gives a really nice temperature shift. That makes plants feel a little bit more like they're in the wild. They're experiencing higher temperatures during the day when the sun's out, and on them, they're getting nice wind, and they're also experiencing lower temperatures at night. That's gonna help kind of stress them out. Because I have wind on my plants, and it doesn't look like that much right now because I have the fan pretty low right now. Something that I've noticed is that when you give your plants the element of like wind and the bright light and the warmer temperatures, it can simulate a more humid environment without the actual humidity. It just makes the plants happier. The only thing I think I am lacking in my collection is the humidity. to kind of keep everything really nice. But I've found that I feel like I make up for it in other areas, especially because my Monstera do grow so fast. Something I've noticed is that if your plants stop putting out new leaves, and they were putting out a ton of leaves, it's probably time for a repot. There comes a point where plants like to be root bound. A lot of plants will grow fastest when they are root bound because they're no longer having to work on their roots, so what they can focus on is just putting out all this nice beautiful growth for you. However, a lot of plants will kind of get to a point where they actually really want to be in a new space. They want to spread their roots. They're too cramped, and so they'll stop growing. At least in my experience, I'll notice significantly stagnant growth. When that happens, I repot my plants, as I did with my Monstera, this one wouldn't put out a new leaf for me anymore. I think it had been 5 months since a new leaf. I repotted it, and then within a month I got a new leaf. So kind of like I said earlier, pretty fast, I water my plants about once every week, especially the Monstera. The smaller ones I water probably a little more often, maybe once every 5 days. In the winter, obviously you're gonna be watering your plants a lot less, especially your Monstera. They really don't like to have wet feet. They can kind of rot. My Monstera are potted in extremely well draining soil. So like as I'm watering it, there's no kind of buildup happening on the top where I need to wait for it to drain down. As I'm watering it, it's not coming straight through the bottom and just like, you know, pouring out, but it is definitely kind of working its way through the soil as I am watering it. And then I can kind of tell by the terracotta on the pot, okay, did this side kind of not get water? Do I need to give it more water? Because this plant is in such a big pot now, I have to give this probably 4 of my watering cans every time I water it, and this is my watering can. So I fill this up 4 times, sometimes only 3 if I feel like I've just kind of watered it a lot. Monstera can actually tell you, if you have a good eye, when they're thirsty. The sides of their leaf fenestrations will curl, and also if they're really thirsty, you might see a full curling happening with just like the whole leaf. It might just kind of start banana-ing inwards, or like as Nick Pileggi says, sometimes things will taco when they feel like they are needing more water. So I try to never let that happen, and I actually try to water my Monstera before that. In the summer, because my plants get direct bright light from a south-facing window, I can usually water them as much as I want without them having root rot. I have never actually given any of my Monstera root rot before. Okay, I have given a Monstera elbow root rot before. It's my most popular video on this whole channel, so I just figured I needed to add a little footnote right there. I know that I water my plants about once a week in the summer, maybe once every 2 weeks in the winter, because in the winter it's not as warm, it's not as bright, so soil's not gonna dry out as fast as it would in the summer, spring, and fall. One of my Monstera I do keep in a pot with no drainage hole, because I found that that plant likes a lot of water. That one specifically, it's a lot bigger. I mean, it probably has like 30 different leaves on it. The other one that I have does have a drainage hole, and it's terracotta. That means that the terracotta is gonna kind of absorb some of the water that's in the pot after I water the plant, so it will help it dry out faster and prevent root rot. The other one has a ton of roots. I feel like it needs more water, so I have it in a pot with no drainage hole, and it's also not a terracotta pot. So therefore, it maintains the moisture a lot longer, and I don't have to water that plant as much. I fertilize all my Monstera with liquid earth. I try to fertilize them every watering, but sometimes I'm just lazy. If you want to try out liquid earth, me and all my friends water our plants with liquid earth. Also, some companies that I'm friends with who grow plants that you might end up buying also use liquid earth for their plants. Liquid earth also works with outdoor plants. It's a non-toxic, very awesome, environmentally friendly fertilizer with 18 key ingredients that you are going to love. I know for a fact, I watched Raven drink out of my ponytail palm tray the other day. It had some liquid earth in it. The awesome thing about fertilizing with liquid earth is that if Raven decides that she wants to take a sip from one of the little saucers that has a little bit of leftover water in it, I don't have to worry about that hurting my cat. She's gonna be just fine. Obviously, don't drink liquid earth. It's probably not good for you. Don't just like chug it down. But according to liquid earth, if your cat or your pet or whatever gets in it, it is non-toxic fertilizer, so it's safe for you to use. You can use code PLAYME_25 to save 25% off your entire order. Promise it's worth it. So many of my members and subscribers have made the switch, and I love seeing you guys tag me on Instagram with liquid earth whenever you place an order. Love that. I always post it on my story, so definitely recommend you try out liquid earth. I water all my plants with it, especially my Monstera. They love it. They absolutely love it, love it, love it so much. Liquid earth also lasts a really long time, so when you get that little bag of fertilizer, it's gonna last you like forever. A lot of people wonder, like, what am I supposed to do with the aerial roots on Monstera? Like, what the heck is this? I let them just go anywhere. Sometimes I'll kind of tie them around whatever I'm using to prop up my Monstera because they'll kind of feel happy about that. But personally, I just let them go wherever. The cool thing about the aerial roots is that they kind of just like look like jungle vibe, but also you can put them into like a pot of water or like a cup of water. Like you can just put it on the floor and then put the aerial root in there, and that aerial root will actually turn into another root system. And then you could actually propagate your Monstera and cut it right in between where that root is, and you'd have a whole new root system. There are two different kinds of Monstera that are generally sold in mass. There's Monstera Deliciosa and Monstera Borsigiana. Deliciosa is the large form, Borsigiana is the small form. They're both characterized by different internodal spacing, as well as Borsigiana tends not to have the same kind of frills at the nape of the petiole where the petiole connects to the leaf. Right at the little top of the nape there, you'll see some little beautiful frills on Deliciosa. Tend to not be able to see that on Borsigiana. Also, they do different fruits and flowers. So I remember this from a video I watched a long time ago at the beginning of my plant journey. I tried to find the same video to cite it. I could not, but in the video, the guy shows two different fruits from Deliciosa and subspecies Borsigiana. If anyone knows where that is, please send it to me. And if for some reason that guy was wrong and for some reason Borsigiana doesn't fruit, I know for a fact Deliciosa does, but I do know that the number one way to tell them apart from that video, which I know happened, is their flowers. So if you're like, do I have a Borsigiana or do I have a Deliciosa? You really can't know unless it flowers, but they are two different types. What Borsigiana does not mean is albo. When I first got into plants, I thought that Monstera Albo Borsigiana just meant like, oh, it's the pretty white variegated kind. That's just albo. You can have a variegated albo Deliciosa or a variegated albo Borsigiana. Or you can have a Tycon, which is a completely different plant in general too. I do actually not own any Monstera albos. I've had them in the past and they generally honestly aren't my favorite. What I really prefer is the green on green sports or an Aurea. Love Aureas. I think that they're so cool. I don't really like the creamy white variegation. I'm really a fan of like the green mint kind of variegation or green sectoral, as well as bright yellow variegation. I think that those are so cool. I have been growing my own sport that I found 2 years ago. It used to be connected to this really big plant on this plank right here. I actually separated it because I felt like I really wanted to see more growth happen on the sport. So right now I'm actually growing the sport part of that plant inside of my IKEA greenhouse. Just put out a new leaf for the first time in 8 months for me. It literally would not grow when it was attached to the other plant. I'm seeing this beautiful new leaf with this super like lime and then dark green variegation. It's so cool. Absolutely love it. You can grow Monstera in soil, in moss, in semi-hydro leca pond. There's this new thing people are growing plants in. It kind of looks like caviar. I don't know what it's called. My friend Devin went and picked up some of it the other day. You can grow plants in any substrate. My mom is a fan of growing all of her plants in water. There's a lot of different things that you can grow your plant up, your Monstera. You can grow it up your wall. You can literally just attach it to your wall and the aerial roots will kind of keep it there. You can grow it on a cocoa coir pole. You can grow it on a moss pole, on a self-watering pole. You can grow it on a plank. You can put moss on the plank and then you can water down it every day. Me personally, I really like growing my stuff on planks right now. My big one on a plank, my other one, my Monstera that's leaning against the greenhouse, the really big one right there. I'm actually just growing that one against the greenhouse and also up my wall. I haven't had a problem ever with Monstera attaching so hard to the wall that when you take off the aerial roots, it leaves a mark. But maybe that's just me. I have found that I really like to grow my Monstera in probably like a half and half mix of potting soil and also orchid bark, just like straight up orchid bark. It creates a really nice, well-draining mix that also retains moisture so that the water isn't just pouring out of your Monstera like into the floor or the saucer or whatever you're keeping your Monstera in. If you were to propagate a Monstera, you would need to propagate it in between an internodal space. Deliciosa is a lot harder to propagate because the nodes are kind of stacked together, whereas Borsigiana is kind of like the nodes are a little farther apart, so they're a lot easy to cut. I'll show you in a second exactly where you would need to cut a Deliciosa if you wanted to root it. I do always recommend air layering plants before you propagate them. There's a lot of different ways you can propagate plants and I will make a video just on propagation and probably post it later this week. One of the most important things that I have found is air layering plants before you propagate them. It's really easy with Monstera because they put out these amazing, incredible aerial roots, which you can literally just wrap some moss around and keep it moist and that will grow a root system there, and then you can just propagate it in between if these are the nodes. right here, you cut right there, and then you'd have one aerial root growing down that you would have already a root system in. If you're gonna straight root a Monstera that has no aerial root, no nothing, I think water and moss are two pretty good options for you. You're gonna expect that it's probably gonna take somewhere between like 6 weeks to 8 weeks for that thing to root fully without anything to start with. So you're gonna be waiting for a while. When Monstera do start to root, they put out this kind of like cream cheese looking stuff on the sides of the node. Don't wipe that off. Like it's this kind of like white, almost styrofoam looking like stuff. And that's how you know that the plant is starting to activate and grow roots out of the node. I think that's everything I have to tell you. Let me show you what the nodes look like on my Monstera and where I would cut and where the new leaf would grow in from and everything. Since Monstera, I think, are one of the most propagated plants. So right here, we have one of my Monstera, and you can see that right here, this is a node. This right here is an aerial root that's starting to come out, and this is our internodal space. This is where you would want to cut. Right here, we have another node and then another aerial root that's gonna be coming in. And so you would cut here, or you would cut here. You just wanna cut in between these eyes, which is what a lot of people call them. Here's one right here with kind of like an old aerial root. With a lot of these different spots, the eye of the new axillary bud, which is where your plant will actually grow in from, is gonna be hidden underneath one of these spots. So you're not gonna be able to see it until it actually starts to grow in. Here is a smaller example. So right here we have our internodal spacing, our node with our aerial root, more internodal spacing, and then our node. When nodes look like that though, and they're kind of brand new, fresh, and it's like these are the top two leaves on the stem, I would actually cut here and I wouldn't cut here. You totally can, and I've seen people do it, but it's just so fresh that it's kind of dangerous, and it is possible that it won't take because ones like this are still being formed, like they're still growing in. I would way rather prefer someone cut here and save this together, and then this part, the root right here, would turn into a new part of your root system, or your stem would start growing more aerial roots and just roots in general, like from the node in water or moss. I'm trying to find an axillary bud I can show you guys. Here is my sport variegated Monstera that I'm keeping in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. You can see that he's got a lot of nice, beautiful variegation coming in, but that leaf is still hardening. So we're not gonna know exactly what it looks like until the leaf is totally hardened. You can see the other two leaves right here. This one's too bright, so you can't see the variegation on it, but the other two you can see pretty well the variegation on it. I think it's really beautiful, so. With Monstera, I found that it's really just really important that you're giving them all the water that they want. You don't want them to go too thirsty or they'll get kind of mad at you. The leaves can kind of yellow. You also want to be checking your Monstera every spring, summer, and fall. I know that sounds like a lot, but you want to check them pretty thoroughly for thrips, scale, mealies, aphids. Monstera just naturally draw a lot of pests to them. So you want to make sure that you're checking your Monstera to make sure that there's nothing hiding on them. Also, it's a good idea to wipe down the leaves pretty thoroughly, because if you're wiping down your plant leaves all the time, it's going to be a lot harder for you to not notice a pest infestation when it breaks out. That's it. That's my care guide on Monstera Deliciosa. I hope you liked it. I hope you liked seeing my Monstera. I am so proud of all my Monstera. It's probably one of my favorite plants to take care of. It's definitely my favorite thing I ever look at. Like, I see that like fun diagonal Monstera wall and it's just so fun. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure you leave a like, subscribe me, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at PlantMeAshley, as well as Instagram. I know I just said the Instagram 3 times, but I've been making reels all the time. So if you like houseplant reels, I pretty much post them on Instagram a lot. Not the biggest fan of TikTok, but I do post there occasionally. Follow my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/streammeashley. I go live there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard and 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you so much to Botanica's Kim Klinowski and Lauren Alexandra for the extra and continued channel support. And thank you so much to all of my members for helping me do this kind of job full time. It's very nice of you. Finally, thank you so much to Liquidert for continuing to sponsor my channel all the time. Don't forget to check out Liquidert, by the way. Highly recommend. Use code PlantMe_25 to get 25% off your entire purchase, and also help your plants grow. Me and my friends, as well as some businesses, do use Liquidert that I know of, because it works. It's amazing. It's also non-toxic. It's wonderful. I don't have to worry. All that being said, I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section. Let me know your Monstera tips in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section. I also don't know when I stopped doing my other intro. I did like a, so I think I'm gonna go find out what that was and do that more, because I miss not like doing that. So anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.